Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here, and we're back with a new multiplayer team. If you're watching this soon after it posts, you'll realize that this video is coming out instead of our usual Q&C&A&T every Tuesday evening. And that's because Abbott is still in the middle of his exams and is currently writing one as I'm recording this video. So good luck, Abbott. Hopefully we'll have our next episode at our usual time next week, Tuesday. And in the meantime, you'll get this splash damage team. Now, this team was originally inspired by a comment from viewer Ian Donegan, which may still end up in the next Q&C&A&T video, but it got me thinking a bit. What counts as a splash damage team? Do you need more than one card to be doing splash damage, or is one enough as long as the biggest part of your strategy is that the splash damage card is your main damage dealer? So maybe we'll stop a moment to look at this team. The danger is that Nightwing, alright, so he's going to have a bar of power. He may drain. Second part of the problem is Arkham Knight Harley Quinn can do punishes tag-ins. So what we can do is use Killer Frost. Because she's our tank, we will drain, or we will let Nightwing drain her power if he's going to, but we're going to try to get our special one off first, do a bit of damage, and then wait him out and see if we can get Arkham Knight Harley Quinn to tag in. Alright, so this is a team that we've used before, but we're optimizing it for splash damage. Batgirl's pretty straightforward. She's got Cloak of Destiny and League of Assassins Knives. And she's got a special one that has a low damage initial hit that stuns if it's unblocked. And it's backloaded with all the rest of the damage after stunning on just one hit. Alright, perfect. Arkham Knight Harley Quinn is in, so now we can bring in Ares. Problem is, because she's blocking, sometimes that will decrease the likelihood of a crit hit. And it may do not enough damage, but in this case it was not a problem. So that was easy. Alright, so getting back to Batgirl. She is actually better than any of the other Batgirls if you're looking for splash damage. And that's because even though they all have the same mechanic of initially stunning, and then they finish up with the rest of their special one, she's the only Batgirl that doesn't have a multi-hit. Well, I mean, technically she's got 2 hits, but a bunch of hits after the stun. So if the opponent gets knocked out, alright, so let's take a look and see if Flashpoint Batman is going to be a problem. He's not. And because Gaslight is later, we don't care about tagging in. Alright, so if the opponent gets knocked out before all the hits land for one of the Batgirls, the last hits don't do any damage, so they don't do any splash damage. I mean, here's the thing. It'll still knock out the first opponent, but if we're going to be optimizing the splash damage, Batgirl Batgirl Prime is actually better than the other ones. So despite her having the lowest damage stat of all the Batgirls and a special one that does the least amount of damage, because all of it counts, 50% of her special one is often more than Cassandra King Batgirl or Arkham Knight Batgirl can give. What we've changed in her loadout is that her third gear is Master's Death card. Now, LexCorp Gauntlets would be better because it's got a higher crit chance on special one, plus an extra chance to stun. But just to make it a little interesting, Master's Death card will guarantee an unblocked special one as soon as she tags in. There's no chance of being blocked because her special one has range, and she doesn't need to wait. We don't need to wait for her to get a second bar of power because we're doing special one, not special two, the way we do in our weekly Justice League team. So she has a slightly lower chance of a critical hit, but a guaranteed unblocked special one when she tags in. So Ares is interesting too. Now, we've got him with the typical loadout that we've used before, which is the Tantu Totem, so that he can get his power back right away. It also boosts his crit chance. And Demon Blade is there because despite being a 2.5-star gear, it's the only gear that increases crit chance for special 2 and boosts damage for special 2. So the combined crit chance on his special 2 should be as close to 100% as the game allows, and it might actually be 100%. So the interesting part is, I mean, what we've done is we've used Blade of the War God on him because it has 20% splash damage on a really good special 2. The problem is, it's not really a problem, but the other effects are on basic damage only. So he's got higher basic damage plus a crit chance boost on basics. So he's kind of a better rounded damage character, but if we really wanted to make him a good special 2 specialist and a good splash damage specialist, all right, so there's nothing there to worry about on that team. If we use the mace from the Fourth World Gear set, we'd be doing less splash damage, so 15% instead of 20%, but it also boosts special 2 damage by 25% and has a chance of power drain on special 2. So that boost also boosts the amount of splash damage, not percentage, but just total amount. It doesn't boost it back up to what it would have been in this loadout compared to what it would be with the mace instead, but probably better because it boosts the amount of damage that the opponent facing Ares takes. So here's where we see the problem. Oh, and because Arkham Knight survived, you can see the red is where the second part of Ares' passive engages, and they can't block for a few seconds. And it wasn't worth tagging in Batgirl right away with that little bit of health on Arkham Knight because of the small chance that if her tag-in stunned him, that the first hit of her special 1 would be enough to knock him out. And then her special 1 would finish on the next opponent, and it wouldn't be enough damage. In this case, all right, so LexCorp gear set completely means that if Lex Luthor blocks on the special 2, that he will end up probably not getting knocked out. So in this case, it may be worth softening him up a bit, using Killer Frost's special 1 first, and then tagging in Ares to try to finish him off with a special 2. So the next iteration of this team might be better to have Ares take away Blade of the War God from him and give him the Fourth World Godly Mace, just because a little bit less splash damage, but the opponent that he's facing will take a bunch more damage. Alright, so what else is left? Alright, Killer Frost is our tank. You can see she was picked to dampen power gen for the other team. And it's a nice bonus that her special 1 slows the opponent, making it easier to time our attacks. Now, the way the team is set up in terms of the order, neither Batgirl or Ares can be in first slot since they need to tag in for power gen. That means we specifically chose Killer Frost's tank loadout to not have Astro Harness, since the first invulnerability would have been wasted. The good thing about this setup is, because we've got Batgirl, we don't rely on Master's Death card to give Ares his power. Power dampening teams don't affect us. Batgirl gives everyone a bar of power. Tantu Totem is automatic for bar of power. And Batgirl's Master's Death card is for a second bar of power. And it doesn't matter if she doesn't get that full second bar, because she's a special 1 specialist. So she's got range. You tag in. You don't worry about finishing off or not. All right, so here's an interesting fight because he's got Astro Harness. We don't want to tag in Ares right away, not because we're afraid of Astro Harness under normal circumstances, but because we need to wait and find out if Arkham Knight Batman, his Wayne Tech boost is the 2 bars of power. Because if it is, the risk is when we tag in Ares, not only will Batman be invulnerable, but he might use his special 2 and potentially knock out Ares, because Ares is relatively low health for his particular balance of damage and health. So he doesn't have the bar power, the immunity's gone, we slow down Batman, and actually this is going to be easier because it's one hit. We can actually splash damage a lot of people with this one. Oh, but he blocked. Alright, so then what we don't want to do is have Ares tagging when he's invulnerable. So we'll bring in our tank, Killer Frost. So this is just a variation. I mean, the best strategy with this team is probably to bring in Ares always, because Ares has a better chance of knocking out whoever he's facing. And if he doesn't knock him out, he leaves the opponent unable to block, vulnerable to Batgirl's loadout and special 1. So that was the mistake initially, tagging Batgirl instead of Ares, and that's making this fight last a lot longer than it should have. I guess that's another potential weakness of this team, is that if Ares special 2 doesn't knock out whoever they're facing, then you're going to have to kill a little bit more time and hope that Batgirl's special 1 finishes everybody else. Because if we tagged in Ares now, he wouldn't have enough power to do a special 2. But maybe it won't matter. Alright, so now Ares is ready. Yeah, so I guess we're seeing also the weakness of having Master's Death card because it's not... her special 1 isn't critting as much. Ooh, that's interesting. So, Injustice 2 Superman blocked that. I don't know if you noticed. Injustice 2 Superman blocked that. He got hit. It looks like he didn't take any damage, so we got both bars of power back. And he's still unable to block, so even with or without Master's Death card, this wouldn't have been a problem. And there you go. Yeah, so when she crits, 184,000, enough to take out anybody. Probably better to have LexCorp gauntlets on her. And this fight would have been a little bit faster. All right, so we've got one more fight. So what you're seeing is the effectiveness of splash damage, because even if you got somebody strong coming in against you, they've already taken a bunch of damage from the specials earlier, so. And this is not going to be a problem. All right, actually, I spoke too soon. The mother box may dodge the special 2 from Ares. So we've got a couple strategies. We could either eat the special, let Killer Frost eat the special, in case Ares special 2 whiffs and leaves him vulnerable to Joker doing a special 1. We could use Batgirl instead and try to do a special 1 to do the splash damage. Either way, this ends up being a total splash damage team. Oh, right. She doesn't have the power from the mother box. And boom. And he's got so little health, it doesn't even matter if he'd had the protection against crit, but he didn't, and he's done. So that is our splash damage team. And it might be worth revisiting. That was another quick fight. So it might be worth revisiting at some point, because you can see they're all Elite 7, level 50, to just do this with a Elite 10, level 60 team, because this will probably be just as effective against the higher level teams that are typically running Astro Harness, because there's not a lot of vulnerabilities here. That this team, despite not having a basic damage dealer and having 2 special specialists and only 1 tank, it's still going to do pretty well. So that's it. We've got a Patreon. You can reach it at patreon.com/bdckr, or you can click on the icon at the bottom right corner at the end of the video. Thank you so much to the people who are already supporting us. Console Peasant, Eddy G, and Edwin Felix, who are supporting us at the highest last word tier. iProphet, who's supporting us at the Your Message Here tier, and Shawn, Farrell, and Daniel Simonson, who support us on the credited level. And a thank you to László, Gyergyádesz, and Chris Wolff. And thank you, everybody else, so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda.